I'm just waiting for Psychicmediumray to join us. I am actually trying to figure this out. Ray, I see you. Is there a way for you to just invite yourself to my video? I always have a hard time doing this. I think I did it.
Hi.
Hey, Ray.
How are you doing, sweetie?
Good. How are you? It's so good to see you.
Likewise. I'm doing so good. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes,
Hi,
I am
guys.
too. Hi. Looks like some of your followers are joining us.
Thank you, Sharon. Yes, I know. They're so good. My rays
Yes,
of light.
they are. I met a lot of nice people through your page, actually.
Likewise. I love your background today. The bright blue. It's my
Thank you.
favorite color.
This is Mike's office when he used to work from home, and he now has his own office. So I'm using this space, trying to get away from the kids so they don't interrupt our talk.
I love it.
So today I wanted to talk about with you, since I feel like you and I both have a lot of experience in this, how to heal emotional trauma, on a psychic level. And I feel like you and I have both dealt with, unfortunately, our share of toxic people and, narcissism. So I want to really try to discover, why is this happening? Maybe we can just kind of go over, like, why are we attracting these kinds of people?
That's a very good question. And I'll start off by saying, Kat, that I really feel that, a lot of this has to do with several factors. One of them in particular, I feel, is like it has to do with the consciousness that we're vibrating as a whole here on the universe. See, the earth, how I like to explain it is that the earth itself is vibrating at a 3D or a third dimension state of consciousness. And what that means in layman's terms is that people in general are the way that they have been socially conditioned to believe that we were born here, we're born to procreate and go to school, go to church, and then die. And that's basically, those are the set core principles, that nothing else really exists. Everything else is an illusion.
Yeah.
And that type of vibration is what overall I believe, like, the whole world in itself is at, as a whole, a collective. Well, I should take that back. Let me repeat that again. Some people are at the 3D, but the world itself as a collective is at a 5D or five-dimensional vibration. So what that means is that at the 5D level, it's unconditional love. It's acceptance. It's acceptance of one another, regardless of age, gender, sex, sexual orientation. It's acceptance of spirit, of spiritualists, of being open and kind of knowing that there is more to the physical realm here. And then we have people that are stuck in the 4D. And the 4D are, people that are kind of breaking out of those molds, breaking out of the social conditioning and gravitating towards the 5D vibration. And it's very hard, even for myself, and I know for you too, to stay at the 5D vibration. No one really can stay on it for a prolonged period of time, because you may be having that 5D vibration, but then you have someone, either your spouse, your partner, a family member, a narcissist, someone that and it brings you down energetically, and it lowers you to a 3D, and it's kind of, it's hard to sustain it. And that's what I've realized. It's hard to sustain it for quite some time. But the reason I mention all of this, because it ties into the core principle of the healing, like you said, dealing with narcissists, with gaslighting, all these things that a lot of women and men are, dealing with when it comes into relationships, friendships, etc. And why we allow these behaviors to continue. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of people don't know anything. They've seen these patterns, these karmic patterns within their mom and dad's relationship, or they were extremely bullied, and so they have no sense of self-esteem. And it's like they haven't really found that love, that self-love. And I think that has contributed to a lot of the people that are kind of like causing a lot of these pains and affliction towards other people, and it just lowers their vibration. And that's why a lot of people need healing, because the majority in this work that I do, reading for clients, I found that so many people need healing. They need some kind of healing, whether it's, you know, a reading that gives them spiritual healing, whether it's Reiki, hi Melanie, from a, you know, Reiki healer, or just talking to someone like I'm talking to you.
Right.
You and I, we get along. We, you know, we vibe. We're like, our lives are mirrored in many ways.
It is.
So I'm sorry, I just rambled on into a tangent.
No,
but
you brought up a lot of good points, because I think as far as when you talk about the levels of consciousness here on Earth, I do feel like many generations were probably even stuck in a 2 to 3D dimension. And, you know, my husband and I actually talk about this a lot, where, you know, the baby boomers, which is our parents, were raised by Depression parents. And I don't really think there were a lot of spiritual tools back then to get over this. And, you know, a lot of children were seen and not heard. So I feel like, you know, that creates generational, you know, problems, I guess. And like you said, the world is basically waking up. We're realizing, you know, there's a little more to the world than working and dying. People want more, and I think this is good. But I also think now our generation is trying to, you know, rectify these traumas somehow.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Kat. I think that, you know, a lot of us that are now doing this kind of work, the rainbow children, the crystal children, the indigos, we are all contributing in some kind of way to elevate consciousness, to bring healing into the world, and kind of help a lot of these older generations. I agree with you. One of the things that I have found in not just my family, but in other people's families, is that a lot of times there's skeletons and things that are kept more in and swept under the rug in families, and this creates a lot of turmoil, whether it was incest, whether it was abuse or sexual abuse, or if it was molestation. All these factors, they contribute over time, and these are the things that a lot of people don't want to speak about, because they are still needing healing. And this is kind of some of the things that is not so pleasant when I do my spiritual or psychic readings on people that I get to see. And it's and I don't judge anyone for holding on to that trauma, but it's very much part of their energy signature when I'm tuning into them. A person that has gone through some kind of traumatic experience, or has gone through something very, you know, much along the lines that I've explained, basically they are at a pivotal point in their life right now where they're stuck. They feel stagnation, they feel stuck, they don't feel like they can move past, and then they are not happy in the life that they're living. Specifically, if they are in a relationship, they're not happy with how their partner treats them. It's not 50-50. It's not, there's no equality, and there's verbal, mental abuse, you know, and gaslighting. And with the majority, I'm just going to say it, I would say at least at 85% of my clients, well, not 85% of my clients, but 85% of my clientele base are women. And I would say that I see so much more of this prevalent among women than men, because I feel women are more vulnerable, and that's a beautiful thing. And they're sometimes more able to open up and, you know, practice self-love and nature and nurture themselves. And men, typically, we're not as open, and we struggle with that toxic masculinity, or those things that men have been ingrained upon by their dads and their grandpas, you know, on being a tough guy. You don't want to, you know, show any emotion. It's not good to cry and be vulnerable. And that's something myself, you know, being that I'm a unicorn, I love, you know, being vulnerable. I found that it's good to be vulnerable, to cry sometimes.
Oh, sure.
When we cry and we let go of things, it doesn't necessarily cry. I found that crying doesn't make us weak. It makes us stronger. And it takes usually a strong person to cry, because a lot of people that are strong carry those emotions for quite some time. And then they let it go. You know, they let go of that. And the worst thing that I see is that so many people that have gone through gaslighting, or going through it right now, are going through any kind of trauma, they are just stuck. They're stuck, and this is causing a lot of problems in their livelihood. and they may treat their children the same way that they were treated by their
Yeah.
relationship or their partner, and they really it doesn't register. It really doesn't register that there is issues that they have, and this kind of comes, along the lines of what I do and what you do as well. We both talked about this, that people they continue to not understand why they allow certain things, but ultimately we allow the way that others treat us, at the end of the day. If what I mean by that is that if someone is, gaslighting or constantly tearing you down, and this is the person that supposedly loves you, that you've, given your life to, and you've committed into that relationship, why are you allowing yourself to be treated that way? That is not the way to be treated. That is not the way of true love. But there's a lot of other factors that I'm sure we're going to get into in this
Yeah.
live, but there's so many other things that I want to say about that, because it's not, I want to get into why people allow these kind of patterns and things.
And I think that's good, because you actually touch on a lot of things that my mother and I talk about with my own children. And I think that's so important for men, especially, to release their emotions. I think it's, you could raise a serial killer if you're telling your kid, your son, it's not okay to cry, buck up,
Exactly.
I don't agree with that. In fact,
Me neither.
My son Ryder, Rowan's a little bit little right now to really see his personality. I mean, as far as how it's going to develop, but Ryder is what I call my spirited child. He was much like me when I was, a little girl. I marched to the beat of my own drum. Nobody was going to tell me anything that I didn't want to do. And Ryder is very much like that, but Ryder's also, a softie, and he's very emotional. And I encourage him to cry, because this is just a part of life. You need to feel the feelings. I really believe that. And I really think that's a good point. And I do think that people are definitely starting to realize we need to let our little boys express themselves in the same manner that we would let our little girl express herself. So exactly. I think that's an excellent point.
Thank you.
I think that, that helps, like you were saying, like to establish these types of boundaries when we're little, because, as an adult, when these boundaries, I feel like they're broken now we have to figure out a way to fix it. And this is like really why I brought you here, because you give a lot of this advice when you go live. So
yeah,
I think we should really try to extrapolate on this, especially when the boundaries are broken as little kids. This is potentially a reason why we might be attracting these toxic people.
I agree with you. And it starts with your childhood, because, like, I'm going to give you an example. When I was younger, I had gravitated towards some pink shorts, and my mom was like, no, you can't wear that, because pink is for women. It's not for men. And I was like, no, it's not. I went against her, and I said, it's not. Pink can be universal. And now you see men, and you see the fashion designers and the trends, and everyone, straight men, bisexual, gay, everyone is wearing the color pink. And that's what I tell people in my lives that I've talked about this. I briefly covered it, but it bothers me on a deep level that the psychology behind it, the actual programming that people have about, one color being feminine or masculine. You really can't put that, because that is just wrong. The colors nowadays are universal for everyone. And it's like telling a child, that goes in for a pair of Converse sneakers, and the Converse sneakers maybe has maybe glitter in them. But now, they're making glitter sneakers that are unisex, and things and clothes that are unisex. And it's like, people want to express themselves in some kind of way. If it makes you happy, why restrict it? Why, set this programming? And children, like you said, men, if you don't talk about it, a lot of times this is the majority, believe it or not, for those of you that are listening, the highest rate of suicide comes from children or people that have committed suicide that have not been able to express how they feel, because all this time they've been told all their life, you cannot, this is wrong, this is not how you should live your life. This is not the choice you should make. You should be doing this. And it's the gaslighting, it's the
It
programming,
is.
it's the toxicity that exists, that is happening, all over the world. And this is what causes a lot of the suicide rates that we see among people. It's not so much that they are wanting to seek an outlet out of the world because they're done here in the physical world. A lot of times it comes from bullying. It comes from toxic people
Yep.
that don't love themselves enough and don't love who they are. So they look at it as a cop out and lash out that energy to other people that are at a higher vibration. And some of those people that commit suicide are very much sensitives in many ways. They are like empaths. They are very sensitive, and to a certain point it becomes overwhelming. It's like sensory overload, and they can no longer handle that energy. And so a lot of times their soul, even though some things are predestined, they choose that exit from the physical world to leave, because it's too much of a negative vibration. They don't want to be aligned with it. It's not who their core of their soul is. And so that's why a lot of people that commit suicide do it. It's not so much to do revenge against someone, because they are just, they don't have any way out. It's the mental anguish, and it's the inability to process all of the vibrations and energy that they have surrounding them, and I guess I wanted to talk about that, because I see a lot of the people that I read for, especially mediumship readings, a lot of mothers, sisters have a lot of family members that have committed suicide before. And it's so hard for me to read people that have suicides, because I can pick up on all the vibrations that those people that committed suicides, those souls, had before, they left. And that's what I see from a psychic level. I see a lot of people that have exited this world, but now they're in peace and they're in love, because they're no longer surrounded by all that toxicity.
It's so sad. And I think that's, I wasn't even thinking that, but I think that's such like an excellent, thing to bring up. I agree with you. I think these people, actually, when they set out to commit suicide, I almost feel like they really don't want to do it.
They don't. Most times
like,
it's like sitting in a room and you're, going back and forth, but I want to do this, but I don't want to do it.
Exactly.
If I do it, what is it going to come? And then ultimately I guess the soul just wants peace. And the biggest way to get that peace is to exit from this matrix that we're in right now, energetic matrix that has so many different energies and instability in it. So,
yeah, I mean, I can think of like, there's really only been like a couple of points in my life, unfortunately, that I have felt like I never attempted anything, but I did feel like I just want a way out, because I'm sick of this. I'm sick of feeling like, depressed all the time. And, and I do think, like, when we get to these points, we're so out of balance, with nature. And I feel like, and not to, bring this up, but I feel like that's why I have a hard time in Arizona. I feel like me as a person, like I need to be near trees, and emotionally, when I am back in a place like the East Coast, such as Rhode Island, when I'm in that forest, I just feel like I'm home.
Yes.
And I sometimes wonder, probably a lot of people don't have the opportunity to even get to a forest, because, we're working that 9 to 5, and, we're raising our children. And
or if you live like somewhere in New York City where there's just skyscrapers and tall buildings, there's no nature. You have to go miles outside into the countryside. And some people, like you said, they don't have that means of transportation. They can't, just go and be in reconnected nature. Living here in South Texas, I'm the same as you. I have a lot of trees and nature around me. And so it's it's a different environment. But I always think about, like, what if I was living in New York, or I was living in California, but Cali has some, like, water and stuff, has ocean. But, like, you need nature, and you need to, like, kind of be out in that, because believe it or not, it helps heal in many ways, just being out there and connecting to Mother Nature.
I gotta say hi real quick to my friend
Sure.
Elena. She says I have a soul of a druid.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thanks to Elena. She does join a lot of my lives out there.
Hi, horror writer.
She's out of France, but she's from Russia. So
What's her name?
Elena.
Elena. Hi, Elena.
But yes, I think the nature is important, and I sometimes feel like, when you post on grounding, that could probably be a way to let out some of this anguish and depression that we have.
Yeah. Like for me, one of the biggest things for me all my life has been my weight and my genetics. Genetically speaking, my family has always been typically a bigger size of people, and it's I don't want to blame that my weight currently on it, but it's not just that, but years of being bullied. A lot of you that know that have followed me and have listened to me on lives and stuff, I'm very open. I'm an open book when it comes to that part of my life. And I went through abuse. I went through being bullied through all my high school. Well, no, all of my elementary, junior high, and part of high school. And so being in that type of toxicity where I wasn't inviting or asking for it, but I was getting all of these, these people, these kids that were supposed to be my age, spitting on me, putting a nail in my shoe, flicking my ear, going down the hall, pushing me against the locker room, punching me in my chest, my stomach, kicking me as I'm walking, throwing spitballs at me in the classroom. These are the things that I don't really like to talk about a lot, but I need to talk about it because I feel like you said, that's what kind of helps people that are listening to heal. Healing begins from the inside out, and it begins when we are able to talk about these things openly and not hold up to it. There's a lot of men that have been abused like I have in the past, and so I've noticed that a lot of men that have been abused, they don't want to talk about it publicly or openly because they feel that they're going to be judged by other people. But when they don't talk about it, what I've noticed with a lot of these individuals is that they have damaged parts of their soul and parts of their lives that are out of kilter or out of balance, like the way that their relationships, maybe they're with partners, but it's like one partner after another, or they're cheating with other people. There's always a trigger. There's always something that is deep rooted. And that's, as a psychic medium, I'm not a fortune teller. I am someone that brings healing. That's what I do. I dive deep into the things that they may not want to hear, but that Spirit wants them to hear, because this is going to trigger you to start healing that part of your soul that has been damaged, or that has has incurred some kind of programming that doesn't allow you to heal. Because the journey of healing, people think, oh, it's like, well, if you do yoga or you do meditation, you drink kombucha juice, that all of this is going to be, that's the pillar of, that's the temple towards healing, and you're going to be healed, and that's the cure. And it's not the case. Healing is dirty. Healing is painful. It's gritty. It's like getting in the trenches. It's like being in war. It's like spiritual warfare within yourself and with people out there. You're going to cry. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have good days. You're going to have moments where you just don't want to talk to anybody. You're going to have, all kinds of emotions that you go through. But this is part of the inner psyche of what people hold on to. Their deepest, that's what I kind of connect to, the deepest part of their inner psyche. And a lot of times they're like, well, Ray, how do you know that? Like, how did you know this? Well, because being part of the psychic, that's what I connect to at the soul level. I don't just brush the surface and say, oh, well, you're a beautiful soul, and I see this and this and this happening to you. No. If I see something that is wrong with them, like a lot of people will ask me, well, what is blocking me? And that's when I go in and I tell them, this and this and this is blocking you. A lot of it is karmic. Some of these things may be past life related, that are karmic in nature and have followed us into this. It's not healing. This is not about just healing emotional wounds or spiritual stuff from this current present life that we're living. A lot of times it's from past lives, and that crap has followed us into this life, and it makes us have the issues that we're having now. And that's what we have to do, as a psychic. That's what I kind of help Like, what I ask myself is like, what can I help that person with to eliminate that karmic cycle, or to help them break that karmic chain, that karmic cycle? Because ultimately, if you're not healing, you're repeating things over and over and over. And in some way, that's why a lot of people are having problems in their love life. A lot of times it's karmic. It's the heart. It's their heart not being able to love, or be open enough to love, or they are accepting situations that are toxic for them. But in the moment, it feels good. You know, they're attracted to that person. That person has a hot body. That person has a good face, you know, and that's what it's, you know, that's what their attraction is to that person. But they're not looking at the soul level and how that person makes them feel. And then they get into these relationships that are toxic. And then they start finding that pretty face, that handsome guy that they fell for is not anything, you know, there's nothing sweet about that person. It's all toxic. And that's what, you know, I try to tell people. But it's hard because when you're living in the moment of it and you are going through the eye of the storm, a lot of times love is blind. And that's what I've noticed.
Sure.
People will make excuses. Well, I triggered this in him. You know, he beat me because I said something I shouldn't have. And then you have to kind of start listening to yourself. That's the excuses that you're making for them when it's not even your fault to begin with, you know?
No, I totally agree with that. You know, because I do feel like, you know, I guess we all ignore the red flags at some point. And, you know, these people, unfortunately, were probably displaying, you know, some things initially when the relationship started to take place. And, you know, and I can say, I've had these relationships. I've witnessed some. I have a narcissist in my own family. Without really, you know, totally revealing who this person is. But she started her method of control over a relationship almost immediately. And, you know, back then I really didn't know what narcissism was, but I quickly found out. And sometimes it's just somebody who likes to brag, but I find more often than not, it's we encounter malignant narcissism, and it's people like that are out to basically destroy you. And
totally,
it's unfathomable to me. Like, I cannot fathom that, because I know that as a human being, I hurt people, but to actually purposely set out to hurt somebody is hard for me to understand.
Well, you know, I agree with you, and it's hard and it's painful, and it's not easy when you're going through it yourself. Like, I myself have gone through that this year. Over the last 2 years, I will say that I've gone through friendships, and you know, I don't talk a lot about this, which is now, this is like the first time I'm really talking about it. And I want to talk about it to let it out, but, you know, I'm not going to give details or names or things like that.
Sure.
But I've noticed, you know, a lot of my own personal friendships have ended, and I've had to end them, or we've ended them mutually. And it's because there is a lot of toxicity, or there was, you know, things said or done that didn't match up with, you know, expectations, even though they're supposed to be. You know, I'm the type of person, I have unconditional love, and I have no expectations of anyone. But sometimes, you know, there are certain individuals that you're enamored with. Like I just said, you know, it could be that they're very attractive, or that they have just this beautiful persona, you know, this beautiful soul. But then they start, you know, maybe aligning themselves with other energies that are no longer good. And it's not necessarily that they're a bad person or a narcissist, but they become that narcissist because they've also align themselves with people that are narcissistic. And, you know, they may claim that they're spiritual, or that they, you know, are a certain way, but it's bullshit. It's malarkey. It's my language when it comes down to it, because I've had to deal with a lot of this, and it's painful for me, because I'm the type of person, as a Gemini, even though a lot of people think that we have two faces, or that we have a bad side, I'm actually more Cancerian, that I consider myself more than Gemini. And I'm very loyal to a fault, and I love having friends, and I don't like losing friendships, but sometimes it's needed to remove yourself from toxic situations where you're being used by people, You know, and you may not realize, like, you know, I will say, like, a couple of years ago that I had a situation, and it was like that I was being used for my spiritual gifts by this person, and they were very friendly, but they would only come to me or communicate with me when they needed something, when they needed insight. And it was very draining. And then it became every day messaging me every minute of the hour, you know, that they needed because their life wasn't. And I was like more focusing on them, and I was being affected, you know, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
Yeah.
And it was like having a parasite on you. And you have to let it go. You have to let that relationship go, because that is not a good, you know, a good relationship or, you know, friendship. And so that's what I've been noticing with myself. You know, I'm having to deal with that this year. It was very difficult as well in friendship area, and I've had to let go of toxic energies, and just knowing that it's okay. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't, if you are going through that right now, where you're just not wanting to let go of someone because, you know, you love them, but at the same time you don't want to lose them, I'll tell you this: it's better off for you. You need to put yourself first, and it's not being selfish, but put yourself first and let go of that person or persons, because ultimately you're doing your soul a disservice here on earth by aligning yourself with something that is going to just bring you pain, or bring you sorrow, or bring you later down the road problems, you know. And it's just hard. You know what I'm talking about, because we've had these discussions. So you know where I'm going with, but a lot of my viewers and Rays of Light and your fans and your followers that are listening, and the viewers today, they may not understand, you know, where I'm coming from exactly, but it's been a journey and a process, and I don't look at anything from the perspective that, you know, I'm not bitter about it. I'm not holding a grudge. I'm moving on and moving onwards and upwards, and that's what it's all about. Being able to release that, because when we hold on to that, you know, sure, you're still going to check their social media. You're still going to, you know, feel drawn to look at them, because a part of you may still have deep feelings for that person or care for them on a deep level, but you're going to eventually heal from that. And part of that is not restricting yourself to that, you know, concept, but kind of just, you know, eliminating that from your life eventually. And it's hard. Like for me, like it was eliminating photographs, eliminating chats and stuff like that, just wiping it all out of my phone, because I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to be reminded of that energy when I would go in my phones and my photos and stuff like that. So that's what I tell clients, you know, that's what that's why I'm able to relate to them and help them as a life coach, as a spiritual medium, and a psychic, you know, to because I've been there. I have been there. I've gone through those emotions. I know what it's all about, you know, what you're feeling, and it's not easy. People will say, oh, well, it's so easy, you know, just cut those spiritual cords, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's not that easy, especially if you,
it's not easy.
For people that are married, like you said, or people that have family members, and you've known this person all of your life for 15 or 20 years, it's not easy. It's not going to happen overnight.
It's not easy. It's not. And, you know, some of the I mean, I kind of agree with you. This has been kind of the year of losing friendships for me. It has. Also. Some people I actually don't care to get back with, but I did have a friend recently that it wasn't her that was toxic at all, but something toxic happened. I don't want to reveal the exact situation, but you know, I felt in my heart that I have been wanting to speak with her again, but I had to wait. I had to wait until, you know, a negative situation was kind of over, you know, and I was scared to reach out to her, but, and I did, and, you know, I was happy it had, you know, a positive outcome, and, you know, I plan to see her, you know, when I get to Rhode Island, but, you know, like you said, it is very, very hard, though, to cut off the cords or contact with a narcissist. You know, I'm sure a lot of people, you know, they've divorced one, or, you know, there's one that's in their family, and, you know, they just can't get away. And, you know, there is some things, you know, on narcissism that I believe they give advice, and this is, I want your opinion on this, but
Sure.
a lot of psychologists give the advice like, no contact, which, is a method I do employ, but also like not responding to them. And I feel kind of twofold on this, because my question to you is like, when somebody keeps coming at you, do you ever feel like, at some point, like it is okay to, I know it's negative, and I did something, maybe a few months ago that was negative, but it's like, I just about had it. Like,
Yeah.
do you continue? It's like, I feel like this. Do you continuously let somebody physically punch you?
You can't.
And, and it just, it just gets to the point where, just because this person is a narcissist, why do they get away with doing whatever they want with no consequence?
Exactly. No, I agree with you, Kat. I agree with you 100%. And the answer to that question is no. It's not wrong to say at a certain point, look, you need to stop. You need to reflect. You're invading my personal space. And I don't appreciate the way that you're treating me. And, just in that, because like you said, we are allowing ourselves to, a lot of people that are going through the healing process and the healing journey, we have allowed ourselves to be treated in a certain way.
Yeah.
By not speaking up, by not being very clear and vocal. And that's, for me, recently, I just went through something very similar to what you have said. And it was that, everything that I did for this individual, everything was twisted completely around when it came to ending the friendship. This person was someone that told me, you can always tell me anything. You can be very open, but it's a very different thing when they think that you're a psychic and you're using your psychic abilities to intrude upon their life, or intrude on their life in some kind of way. And that is not the case with me. I'm not that type of person.
Yeah.
But I can understand why this person thought this, and thought that situation like that. But a lot of the times, like I've told my friends, I've told you that as a psychic, when I give insight, I'm not the person to say, ha ha ha, I told you so, and point my finger at them, because that's just, not me.
Yeah.
But if I gave insight to this person and we're no longer friends right now, I don't know in the future if there would be a possibility of reconciling that friendship. But, at the time being, right now, there's a lot of things that have been said that are very painful, etc. So I'm the type of person, if that person wants space, I give them space. And I need space right now from this person and from, their surroundings, And so what I've done is that I've pulled myself away from it. I said what I needed to say, but I never responded back to them. And they, they wrote me back and they told me, what they felt, but I never responded back. And what my friend, Jennifer Waller, which I have a live coming up with her Sunday, and she's told me, silence is also an answer.
It is.
Silence is also an answer. And a lot of people go on radio silence, or they don't say anything back. And I'm that type of person. I like to be the person that has the last say. And I just say it, I like to have the last say, and I like to be the one in control and just say, what I had to say, and they have to listen to it. But that is a damaged part on myself that I recognize as a person, because I'm not perfect. And that's something that I'm trying to heal myself. I think that my initial reaction is that sometimes when I get to something that I don't like, it's reactionary, and I just cut them off completely, cold turkey, and without giving them the opportunity for them to say their side and say what they felt. And this case, this time around, I kind of let that person have their say. It took them a while to respond back, but they eventually did. And I had to hold on to it and not respond back. So I'm not responding back, because, ultimately I'm not bitter about it. I understand some of the things that the way they view, the way they view the things that, that they think, or they perceive it to be. But sometimes, like I said, love is blind, and situations that, I may have given insight. Maybe I overstepped my boundaries as a friend on telling someone, but my understanding from being a friend with other people is that true friends don't let other friends, if there's something going on in their life, they're going to be vocal about it and tell them about it. They're not going to, if you're a good friend, you're not going to just sit there and be like, oh, well, so, this is not my concern. I'm not going to say anything. I'm the type of person, if I have you as a friend and you're in my life as a friend, I'm going to tell you exactly what I see.
Yeah.
But when I did with this person, it was that I was jealous of their own personal friendship with another person. And so it became very toxic immediately. And a shield went up on their end, a shield went up on my end. And then there was no turning back at that point, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you call yourself a friend, for those of you that are listening, you're out here to it, this is the message that I have for you today. This is the wisdom from Ray, from learning from my mistakes and from my experiences, is that if you have a friend out there that is a true friend and they tell you, you know, that they're your friend, they should be able to accept anything and everything that you have to say about them or to them, you know, even if it may be something that they don't want to hear. And you should have the ability or the ability to express why. Like when I told that person, you know, what was going on, I never got an opportunity to talk to that person and tell them why I had said it or what was going on. It was just like, okay, you said it and now I'm cutting it off. And so I got radio silence from that person for quite some time. But yet when they needed me for some insight for something, you know, they came to me. And then I got it to the point where I was like, well, if you're a true friend and you are busy, no matter in what business you are, there's 24 hours in a day,
right?
7 days in a week. It only takes about 10 to 15 seconds to respond to a text message or to a phone call. And if you can't do that, then what are you telling that person? You know, what's the message that you're sending to that person? You're saying basically that you don't really care. They're not really close to you, you know, that they're not important. And this is not a codependent behavior. It's not having expectations. It's just common courtesy. It's part of, you know, having a good dialogue and a good communication in the friendship. And so I got to that point where, you know what, this was happening for a period of time. And I said to myself, you know what, that's it. I'm not going to put up with it anymore. I'm going to address it. I'm going to be very vocal. And regardless of where the chips may fall, that's going to be the end of it, you know, and I'm not going to look back on it. And I'm not, you know, if this person and I decide in the future to have a friendship or whatever, you know, that is on us. And that's just, I have to wait and see it. But, you know, there's a lot of things that were said and done, and it was very painful for me. Right around the launch of my cards, all of this went down. But I am, you know, I'm okay, and I don't hold any bad blood. That person is successful. I'm successful. That person is living their best life. You know, more power to them and to their the people that are in their life as well, you know. But me calling out toxic people, or, you know, people that have bad energy vibrations, in retrospect, I thought about it, you know, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Maybe I should have bit my tongue and not have, you know, crossed that boundary on saying anything, because there were other factors involved in this friendship that kind of caused blurred lines. And so it was just, you know, a growing experience. That's how I look at it. And I take it for what it is. It's a growing experience. It's a healing journey. So I'm going through the healing journey right now as it is. And it's not easy. I have days where I think about that person. I have days when I think about, you know, the messages and, you know, and things that were said and done, but I'm healing from it. And it's a process, but
it is. Well, I think life is, I mean, I think if you're doing it right, we all have continuous things we need to learn. And I totally agree with you that it is definitely better off trying to move past this and, you know, wishing these individuals to live their best life. However, you can't be along for the ride at this point. You know, you have stuff you need to learn, and likewise for them. And I totally hear your words on that, because
people show you who they really are. And it doesn't matter how, you know, spiritual they are or what they claim they align to be, how loving they are. You know, eventually they are going to show you their real, true intentions, their true, real self. And if you continue to allow yourself to be in that energetic pattern, you're never going to heal. And for me, it was something that has affected me on many levels, mentally, spiritually, and even my health. Here recently, I just got diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic. So, you know, I'm going to have to make changes on my lifestyle, on, you know, and be on medicine and things like that. And I'm trying to deal with all of this. And it's just, I don't look at it as a death sentence. I don't look
Yeah.
at it as something bad, but yeah, it was a shocker. And like coming in today, I was like, should I do this this live with Kat? Because it's very hard to be diagnosed as a diabetic, and not even, I barely just found out today.
I asked her. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's a hard diagnosis. I mean, it's a little bit medicine sometimes, and a little bit of a lifestyle change, and
yes,
I think we're all works in progress, and I'm glad that despite that terrible news that you joined me, because it's always good, I think, to talk with you and get this perspective from a psychic medium, and I think that like you do on your lives, and like me, I want to definitely share my life experiences with people, because I feel like I might be helping someone, and right now one of my ways, besides going live to help people, I'm trying to write things on my blog that help people, and with the last piece that just came out on apologies, it just kind of made me think of you, and like everything that you've been through lately, and to have your perspective on how to get over some of this stuff, and I think it's it's heavy, it's heavy stuff to talk about. It it forces us to really examine our life and the things taking place in it. Like you said, it's very hard to, eliminate some of these toxic people, but, from a psychic level, are there any protection methods that, you might recommend for people to employ in addition to these personal boundaries and expressing yourself? Do you recommend some stones or tinctures or?
Absolutely. One of the things that I've learned as being, a psychic and also an empath myself, is to use a lot of tools. So I use a lot of crystals. I like black tourmaline, selenite. Tourmaline is a crystal or a stone that will get a lot of energy and transmute that out back into a positive. It blocks psychic attacks. It will help with narcissists and that kind of stuff. It also is very good at, just balancing a lot of the negative energy out. Selenite, it's more for like the higher realms, your angels connecting to your spirit guides. It brings the balance. So those two, I specifically use them when I'm around narcissists or toxic environments. Like when I used to work out in a call center, I was surrounded by a lot of toxicity, and I had to use those two stones to help me. But other methods that I like to use is a lot of visualization. I will usually visualize myself in a pyramid of gold light. Gold is the color of the divine, masculine. It is a color of healing. It goes very back to like the Egyptians and beyond. It's an ancient color, and so I use that, and I visualize myself being in a pyramid of gold, because that will kind of like protect my aura. It protects the energetic space all around me. That's going to be good as well. Make a wall of that shit.
I know, I was trying not to laugh while you were speaking. Astrid,
I know.
She's so funny.
Literally, if I could wear like a suit made of black tourmaline and selenite, girl, I'd be wearing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that itself, and also, just sometimes it's good to just pray. For me, I found a lot of solace in praying to Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron, Archangel Raphael, especially Raphael when it comes to healing of any nature, of any sort. So doing that, and then let's see what else. Listening to like 936 hertz, 432 hertz. A lot of these sound frequencies are just so good. To listen to, because they vibrate. Tibetan bowls or sound bowl therapy. These are things to kind of look into. Because
do you get that on interrupt, but that, I mean, I never heard of that, the sound therapy. Do you do that on YouTube? Do you pull up videos of that?
Yeah, I pull up videos on it, and I also bought like a mini Tibetan bowl. And it has that little spindle thing, I don't know what you call it, and you just rub around that, or tap it, and it emits that vibration of that music or that kind of sound. So So yeah, those are good techniques as well. And then, I use like uncrossing spray, and this is more like dealing with like the hoodoo or magic portions of dealing with negative energy, and kind of getting rid of all of that. Dragon's blood resin, copal. There is I like to burn incense. Burning incense in your space, or sage, sandalwood is very good. But dragon's blood incense is very good as well. There's just so many things that you can do. I was talking with my friend Melanie the other day on her live about using crystals inside of your water and charging that water that you're drinking, because you can charge your water, and you're taking that into you. Water is the essence of life. It's what we take into us. And so that helps us a lot, in kind of protecting and healing. One of the green crystals that I like to recommend if you're having some problems with love life, or you've been abused and you feel like you just are not loved in this world, is malachite. Because malachite is a very strong vibration stone, and when you wear it as a pendant here by your heart, it's going to promote that heart chakra to open. It's going to expand, and it's going to bring healing. Other things that you can do is doing like salt water baths, like dipping your feet in Epsom salt or sea salt or Himalayan salt, or taking in a bath bomb in your, taking a bath with some kind of herbal or spiritual herbal type of bath bomb. There's different ways to heal yourself and to put up those layers of protection. Even though you may be thinking, well, why is that going to protect me? Well, because you're cleansing your aura. Yeah. And when you're cleansing your aura, you're able to have a stronger energetic protection around yourself. And so these are the things that people can employ here in the now. We can control that to kind of help us with, the energy and things that are going on, and promote healing. So that's what I would recommend. There's much more, I'm sure, but, that's what comes to me right now.
No, I like those ideas. I feel like I've known about the Tibetan ball. It's like a chime, right? That you kind of. I feel like I heard maybe about sound therapy in passing. I'm going to look that up after we get off. It looks like we have a little bit.
There's even color therapy where people have like that color lights on their lamps, and it may project a certain color, because different colors promote different types of healing. Like yellow may bring you more happiness. Green is more healing. Red is more about bringing love into your life. Love. So working with different colors, or even dressing in different colors. Every color has a different purpose. For me, I love a lot of black clothing. I gravitate towards it. I know I'm like the goth vampire of psychic mediums. I love black clothing, but I also am like now I'm wearing burgundy. Burgundy is also a good color. Just working with different colors. There's so many in the spectrum, but I found that working with different colors can also bring healing as well.
My favorite, I feel like I have a goth soul, but I don't dress like it. I'd like to, though. I actually would like to start doing that. But, I like black too, but my other two go-to colors are like turquoise and purple, and I like orange so much. Like any color of the sunset, I feel like I'm very, very attracted to for some reason. And so I think that is interesting. I think it would actually probably help people going to work in a toxic environment to kind of change that, maybe wear something brighter than you normally would, like you said, yellow or, orange, something that kind of is going to change your mindset for the my phone gave a stupid notification, like my storage is
Me
full.
too, mine earlier, and it did that. I got like an incoming call. It was like, police, I'm doing a live.
I just want to, okay, we have about what looks like 10 minutes, so I'm just going to look through my list, really quick.
One of the things that I will say and give that message out right now is that if you are having problems on letting go of someone, the hardest part is letting go. But if that person is no longer being, good to your soul, and it's constantly every day, like you gaslighting, abuse, verbal abuse, or nothing that you do is ever right, or they tell you, if you leave, You won't be worth anything without me. You won't make it on your own. Those are lies and illusions that have been put up, and don't
Yes.
listen to those voices, because they operate out of fear, and they want you to have a lower self-esteem, so that way you're dependent on them. And a lot of women are financially dependent on a man, and they can't get out of that situation. And ladies, I'm here to tell you that if you're in that situation, get out there and empower yourself to make your own money and get out of that situation. Because the moment that you take your power back, the moment that you start working and getting your own income, you're going to notice changes. You're going to notice that they're no longer on that same tune. They're no longer going to try to treat you the same way. They're going to start feeling fear themselves, because now you're empowered. Now the tables have turned. It's no longer, they have 70% of the income that they're bringing in, and you only have 30% or none. Empower yourself. That's what I'm telling a lot of my female clients that are in these situations, and that are scared. There is always people, there's organizations that you can reach out to that are going to help you. So don't think just because you leave a toxic situation, you don't have any family or friends to turn to, that you're going to be left out on the street with your children. There are organizations, there are people that are willing to help. Nothing is like it was in the 1980s or 70s, when there were issues like this and women didn't have a way to turn to or a place to go. Empower yourself and get your power back. Take your power back, because you are so much worth it. And this is for men too. A lot of men have females that are in their lives that are very toxic, etc. Take your power back. This is all what it's all about. Just being powerful, standing in your truth, in your authenticity, and taking your power back. And once you do that, everything is going to change. Trust me.
And and just looking from the comments here that we're getting, a lot of people do, definitely relate to this. And
a lot of people are going through it, and just some people don't want to talk about it, because it's not pleasant, and people judge other people. And that's a society that we live in. If you go and tell your best friend that you thought was your best friend, they may go and gossip to Susie and Judy and all these other people, and then it comes back to you. And so a lot of people don't want to open up, but you need to open up and let this go, whether it's working with a therapist, a psychologist, or working with a medium, or some type of healer. Talk to someone that you trust and get it out. Know that you're not alone in this. There's so many people that are listening, probably, that will listen to this later, because I'm going to put this on my YouTube channel.
Oh, good.
That are probably listening to it, and they're thinking, I'm afraid, I'm scared, and don't be afraid and scared, because once you let go of that fear that they want you to be stuck in, you're going to notice everything is going to change in your life for the better.
I totally agree with that. And, that's kind of why after I had my third child, I realized that, not that my husband's a narcissist, but, I think when you stay home, there's a little bit of, I want to say this nicely, but there's like a level of, control, and,
right.
You lose your individuality a little bit. And that's why, I decided that, I'm going to start focusing on, my own self again. Like I do I was very inspired by photography hubs, just kind of looking on Instagram about cemeteries. And then I have always been an artist. And I'm not like a great drawer, but like different things in art. I paint. But this time, like, I wanted to write, and I started writing, and, people started encouraging me. So I did it some more. And, sometimes I think, like, sometimes there's like toxicity that develops, but you don't really realize it. And sometimes I feel like it's not even, like intentional by another person. But I think men are like, they're like born providers, a lot of them, and they have like this mentality that they want to protect the woman and make sure the whole family as a whole is functioning. But sometimes